r/AskReddit by Reddify. What's the hittest thing you've ever done? When I was in high school, another kid in the class had been being a rike to my friend the day before. So I went to class a few minutes earlier, squirted a big blob of Germ-X in his chair. It's important to mention that nobody saw me do this. Class starts a few minutes later. He comes in and sits down and is immediately furious. He starts looking around to figure out who did it, and there I am, doing a very poor job hiding my laughter as I look at him. He puts 2 and 2 together, walks over, and starts hitting me. This guy had a very short fuse. The teacher sends us both to the office and asks why he was beating me up. He says I put water in his chair, but nobody else saw this. They just saw him get up and start hitting me. So I claim I have no idea what he's talking about. Well, there's only one way to see who's telling the truth. We all go back to the classroom to check the chair. Number except it was Germ-X, not water. So it had already evaporated. Kid got 3-day suspension. I got off scot-free. I feel kinda bad though. Okay, good question. It just got real. I was at the park with my wife and my 4-year-old daughter. We went with another couple with their 4-year-old son. The kids were both riding scooters. The little boy had been riding his scooter for a long time and rode it a lot, so he was very confident with his scooter skills. But my daughter had just got her scooter a few days before and was nervous. The little boy thought it was funny to ride his scooter fast and then hit the brakes and gently bump into the back of my daughter's scooter. He did this 3 times and my daughter got more upset each time he did this. Each time I told him not to do this in a progressively stern voice, but he kept doing it. After the 3rd time he did this, I looked him dead in the eyes and told him if he did that again he would be sorry. The little hit backs up 20 feet and starts coming full speed at the back of my daughter's scooter. My parental instinct kicks in, and I put my foot firmly down 1.5 feet behind me daughter's scooter thinking this would scare the kid into veering away, but he didn't have time, and he tries to stop in a panic. His timing to slow down and gently crash into my daughter's scooter was thrown off by my foot, causing the 4-year-old to fall hard on the concrete path. He skinned both his hands and both his knees and he loudly yells out, "What are you doing?" I instantly felt bad. Plus some people in the park had missed the initial scooter bumping and just saw me tripping this 4-year-old kid, so I felt embarrassed. A few minutes later, after calming the kid down, both his parents laughed and thanked me for teaching their kid a lesson because he was being a rike. Many years back I had a girlfriend who was very nice, but a bit full on about our relationship. One day, whilst watermaging in the drawer next to my bed to find my keys or something while she waited, I saw something and had a brain fart. I picked up the object, turned to my GF, and went down on one knee. "Sir," I said, as I produced a jewelry box. She went all giddy as tears started to form in her eyes. I opened the box. "Have you seen my cufflinks? They're great, aren't they? Look, they're little metal dice. And NBSP." She ran crying from the room, while I was left on one knee realizing what a rike I can be. In my defense, I didn't plan the joke. It just sort of happened without me engaging my brain. And NBSP. Carrot. Also, the cufflinks were pretty cool. When I was around 13 years old my grandfather passed away, and we cremated so that his ashes could be scattered into the Great South Bay, Long Island. My aunt had come up from Florida for the funeral, and after the services were over the immediate family drove with the urn to the bay. We had all gotten out of the cars and my aunt was reaching for the urn which was in a box on the middle seat. When she lifted the urn it broke. Water dissolving urn. My grandfather's ashes were all over the seat and my aunt, being 13 and always messing around and making fun of friends when they fell or did something dumb, I automatically shouted, "Ha, nice job." Realizing what I had just said, I just stood there with my hand over my mouth as my aunt turned to me with tears in her eyes and her father's ashes on her hands. One time I tried to steal a stop sign, but got busted by the cops. I was in college, and my friends noticed that a stop sign near the dorms had fallen over. It was after dinner, and raining really hard outside, and they figured this would be the best time to take it. I was bored and figured that, since the college had taken so much of my money, they could probably afford to replace a stop sign. The plan was that I would pick up the stop sign, My friends would drive up. I would place the stop sign in the car. They would drive off. And I would walk back to the dorm. So I walked over to the stop sign. A car drove up to the corner. I picked up the stop sign, metal pole and all, and started walking to the car. Halfway there, and I realized it was a cop car. I stopped momentarily. What should I do? Drop it and run? Wouldn't the officer give chase? I kept walking toward the cop car. He rolled down his window. Tim, what are you doing with that stop sign? Me, hey, officer. I noticed this had fallen over and figured you'd want to know about it. He looked at me like I was an idiot. Keep in mind that it's raining and I'm completely soaked at this point. Tim, just tell the traffic department in the morning when it isn't raining. Me, that's a good idea. Thanks. I set the stop sign down and walked back to my dorm. My friends had never left the dorm and just watched the whole thing from the window, laughing the entire time. I still feel absolutely dreadful for this. Even though it was over 10 years ago, whenever I went out with this specific guy from work, Jake, something bad happened, this obviously being the worst. It was a Friday afternoon, and I fancied a water. Nobody else is interested except for Jake. So we end up at the local pub together. A couple of hours of drinking pass and we are super drunk. As you would expect after several hours of drinking. The time came where we both needed to use toilet. So we left for the journey together and ended up at a urinal standing next to each other. Jake, in his infinite wisdom, decided it would be hilarious to piss at me. He turns around and yells hey and shoots a long stream of piss all over my fabric-toed shoes. Jake found this hilarious where I found it to be disgusting. He quickly runs off while I'm left to finish my own piss and calculate my revenge. I zip up and turn around to leave the toilet. When who do I see but Jake bent next to the basins. With no time to think, I ran in and planted my piss-soaked toe at full force in the middle of his asshole, bearing absolutely no mercy with my strength. The kick landed perfectly, directly between the cheeks. The revenge was more glorious than I could have anticipated. So I'm laughing and pat Jake on the back until I realize that the kick recipient wasn't Jake at all. My heart sinks and jaw drops. It was an old man wearing the same color clothes as Jake, who was stopped in a struggle of doing up his belt. Holy duck. My words started stumbling out of my mouth. I asked the guy if he was okay, told him that I was so incredibly ducking sorry, tried to explain how the misunderstanding occurred, however he could not say a word. He kept grunting and waved me off, signaling for me leave. By this point I'm as white as a ghost trying to comprehend what exactly just transpired and follow his instructions. Outside of the toilets, Jake is standing there laughing about the whole I pissed on your shoe incident when he notices I'm completely stoic. We walk back to our table and I explain to Jake what pain our antics had incurred. We are both speechless. After 5 or so guilt-ridden minutes, we formulate a plan to make things right. This plan involves finding the poor guy I booted up the ass and cover whatever he wants to drink for the rest of the night. We both paced around the pub for at least an hour trying to find this guy. No luck though. He was gone. I still feel like an absolute douchebag and no longer go drinking with Jake. When I was a kid, old enough to know better, young enough not to care, I threw a frog as high as I could in the air. Instant regret. Before it even hit the ground I was questioning why I did that. I couldn't even force myself to go witness the aftermath. Once gravity had brought the poor creature back to earth, I walked immediately inside. I'll probably never forget that frog as a lesson on empathy. Sorry, edit. Not sure if I meant to feel comforted or horrified that so many of us have mutilated, tortured, and murdered small amphibians. I once put a piece of chocolate on this girl's chair at work. She was wearing white trousers that day. You can work out the rest. Edit. There's a surprising amount of people asking about the size of her ass. It was huge, and she was a big girl. It was a piece of Cadbury's Dairy Milk. A great chocolate. Only one other dude in work knows I did it. She got up out her seat after an hour or so and someone pointed it out. She was ducking, fuming, demanding to know who did it. I went into the break room and a friend of hers was trying to scrub it out, only making matters worse. I smacked my brother so hard he fell headfirst into my dresser cause he ran into my room screaming and tripped over my PS2 cord and unplugged my controller.